Oh, it's a goal. Who got the assist? Who got the assist?
Oops, well, you can tell Sam's not here. Morning assisters, yes, it's just me today. Was Sam off skiing over the weekend? It was my partner's birthday yesterday. I mean, the only time I had to actually record anything is right now on Monday morning. I've definitely ticked off all the boxes for recording WGTA now. And I'm here. I'm Tom, ably assisted by a couple of voice notes by Sam. Probably about 15, 20 minutes. I haven't got myself to talk to, so probably won't be that long. And maybe less. I'm obviously not drinking. This coffee ain't Irish. I've got to go to work soon. Just to preview double game week 26. So yeah, here we are. On this rare occasion, I am who got the assist. And on today's agenda, a bit of a vibesy show, not going to lie. Not had much time to prepare for this one, just having a super busy weekend, but hopefully do for you going into the midweek round of games. How we did the game week 25, general chat on the double, which Arsenal assets to go for. Most people will be sorted already, but if not, should you consider like Madueke, Gyökeres, etc. over Rice? And also other options we should be looking into now, but not full-blooded sort of Fulham versus fixtures, and a little diversion to whether we should triple captain or not. Sam will have his voice note here too. And also to round off 1 week punts for the one ahead, and we'll go into our teams for this week. It's Monday, the 9th of February. Game week 25 is in the books, and game week 26 deadline is tomorrow night for the double for Arsenal and also Wolves, which I forgot to mention earlier on. It's 8 a.m. right now that I'm recording. I suspect this will venture its way onto the airwaves probably about sort of mid-morning, maybe towards lunchtime when my meetings, early morning meetings are out of the way, but we shall see. So on to the game week reviews. Me first, because I actually had a good one. Good one all week, a good one all in here. I crumbled at the last minute though on Friday. I pledged to roll the free transfer yet again, basically, and yet again the itchy trigger finger got me. Oh well, I basically got spooked by the sheer number of teams with Enzo and João Pedro out there. I knew I couldn't do anything about João Pedro because Thiago and Ekatike, as discussed beforehand, they're staying for me. I only had one free transfer. However, I did have a road to do Wilson out, Enzo in, or Rodgers out and Enzo in. Chose to sell Wilson, hoping that kind of I was selling him at peak. Maybe I'll consider him back in kind of game week 28, 29. So yeah, hit that. On the FPL side, there were a couple of things. Obviously, I was frankly scared of VEO, and the other, objectively looking through it on Friday, I thought Enzo would outscore Wilson over Wolves away, Leeds at home and Burnley at home before he then gets shipped off to another option. Wilson had Everton at home, just gone, Man City and Sunderland away. I was due to play him in all of those fixtures, so I thought, you know what, I'd have the same sort of problem next week, but I'd miss a game. Making that move also meant that I initially had Anderson playing last week, but I moved Tarko in for one more game, more of this in a minute, and benched Anderson. So yeah, basically reflecting what we said about last week in the 50-50s. After Bruno's goal early on Saturday, I was waiting on two 50-50s coming through, and I think I came out all right. I was Anderson versus Tarko for the first one. Tarko got 2 points and only 3 DEFCON in the away game. Definitely something about how Fulham attack in there, lots of side-to-side sort of passing. But Anderson only got 1 because Everton somehow scored twice, as did Chow, who was also in on my bench, but I was never playing him because I was playing Thiago. So yeah, 1 victory, and then the other one was Wilson basically not returning, which he didn't. Although Enzo didn't either. So, you know, I'll call that a draw. 1 tiny win, 1 draw, net positive. Hopefully I sold Wilson at the peak, as I mentioned, and I can buy him back, you know, maybe in a few weeks, but, you know, like Dango has put his hand up, could even find a way to manufacture a route to Wirtz, which would be really, really cool in a couple of weeks after Enzo's fixtures run out. I think it's at Arsenal in game week 28, I'm going to say. And that will be the time when you look at it and think, okay, well, maybe it's time to move on. So yeah, 2 more good fixtures for Enzo, and then out he goes. Wildcard soon for me, so that's fine. Sunday, we obviously had the Brighton Palace, derby in inverted commas, and then we had the City Liverpool game, which I did watch second half of, and what an ending that was! I was glad we were back for that. And yeah, Haaland ending up with 11, thanks to a rather fast end of the game with the red card for Szoboszlai. Correct decision by letter of the law, but an instance where the law is an arse, I think, meant he actually beat Bruno, which was funny, given all of the pendulum swing and all that sort of thing that we spoke about. But since his effective ownership was actually really low, Haaland. It was like 13% for me. That was the same magnitude as like Bowen or something like that. Not really too worrying at all. Didn't matter too much. Plus, plenty of people around me that actually sold him. So in mini leagues and stuff, in the Workman League, the person in second sold him a couple of weeks ago. So I was like, well, that's brilliant. It was actually a bigger win that Semenyo kept quiet there. And Gahey, even though he got DEFCONs conceded, and those are the biggest stories for me. Got yellow cards rather than Gahey. So yeah, the terms of the quiet, keeping the rank threats quiet, that worked out really well. Other returnees, Raya nabbed a bonus somehow again, outscoring Timber. This is going to revert in spectacular fashion. Timber owners, I'm sure, keep the faith. Gabriel with regulation clean sheet. Chalobah just about getting DEFCON at the very, very end. Rogers 10-pointer, lovely stuff, but so sorry again to friend of the pod Alex Ball, who I told to bench and play Wilson as I'd sold Wilson. Still feel pretty bad about that. Rice DEFCONs again, right of the death, and the Thiago penalty. Ekitike Blank really should have scored and buried Man City too. That would have been very good for Arsenal in the narrative arc of the season if he'd have scored that brilliant ball through from Mo Salah. But it was what it was, and to be fair, I mean, loads of people will enjoy the title race. So hey, there we go. Overall, 3 points ahead of safety with my 74. Stop the rot. 4 reds, hopefully back on the charge now at 92k is where I ended up just about. So kind of a 10k rise, something like that. Let's see how Sam did.
Hi everyone, sorry for not being able to make the live recording today. I'm still on my way traveling back from France, where I managed to survive a ski trip without breaking too many bones. So that's always good news. Also good news, I got my 3rd green arrow in a row. So 71 points from me. Not a big green arrow, but still not bad whatsoever. I will absolutely take that in a week where it felt like a lot of the big hitters also did quite well, and I didn't necessarily have all too many of them either. But yes, nonetheless, 71 points. Captain Bruno Fernandes for the 2nd week on the trot where he scored 10 points, so that was always good to see. Obviously, Haaland snuck away with 2 returns himself, but his ownership wasn't drastically above 100% for me, so it wasn't too painful there. I had Rogers in my midfield hitting 10 points, just one shy of DEFCON as well, which would have been nice. And my transfer in was Declan Rice for Bukayo Saka, 5 points from him. So again, I will probably accept that. That's absolutely fine. And Elliot Anderson also hit DEFCON as well, hitting 4 points there. Up top, I had Thiago with the penalty goal. Obviously, no bonus attached to that. And double Arsenal clean sheet in my back line as well. So Gabriel and Timber doing the job there. Overall, 71 points, perfectly happy. I've got 1 free transfer and a small green arrow of another 20 odd K. So I'm up to 260-ish K, I believe, although I will have to go and double check that. But yeah, overall, not too unhappy about that. And fingers crossed, week 4 can be another green arrow in a row for me.
Lovely stuff. Yeah. So Sam ended up 263k. So yeah, on the charge, I suppose, as well. Yeah, it's had a tough season, but again, no, the team looks great, and be interesting to see whether he's in for triple captain or not. I have put his team in. I haven't listened to his voice note yet, so we'll all be listening to it for the first time together. On to the double game week for this week. Arsenal have Brentford away. I said Nottingham Forest away last week, didn't I? I was too excited. But yeah, Brentford away and then Wolves away. And Wolves have got Nottingham Forest away and then Arsenal at home. There is an FA Cup fixture in between the games this week because of the weekend and the free midweek, all that jazz. Arsenal are at home to Wigan. And Wolves are away at Grimsby. And, there's a few sort of bits and pieces that are kind of irrelevant here. So, we'll talk about Madueke in a minute. He got taken off 59th minute. And there's a lot of interest now in Gyökeres, who scored the brace. I believe at one point he'd scored the most of all. No player had scored more in all competitions than Gyökeres in 2026. I don't know if that's kind of happening, but maybe it's just a symptom of Arsenal playing the newly promoted teams and the lower half teams, which Gyökeres obviously excels at playing. Wolves wise, I'm not going to bother covering them just because of time. Mane, cheap, whatever. If you want to punt elsewhere, go for it. Usual caveats and health warnings about transfers being precious apply. If you feel like one of the Buenos are for you, or you want to be keeping up with the Gomez's, then that's cool. But there's no real appetite from my side to buy any of those guys in. I certainly wouldn't be making the only exception I could think of would be, say, you needed to buy Mane for your third striker to afford Bruno Fernandes, something like that. Absolutely fine if you want to do that. Just bear in mind, there's no kind of game week 31 fixture for those. So in terms of Arsenal assets, which I'm going to major on here due to time again, goes about saying almost, I think the main four to have are Gabriel, top tier, clear. Don't have him, just don't do it yourself, just buy him. And then two of Timber, Rice, and Raya. Saliba, who did have a stealth rise the other night out of nowhere, a fifth. If you're really keen on triple defence, if you own Raya already and you've kind of got an Arsenal spot, despite coming back in the team, I'd be wary of Calafiori at the minute. He's just returned from injury to get removed. I think he did go over the 60 minute mark. Quick note that obviously the triple defense is absolutely fine if you have the maneuverability to go that way. It's fun to get that sort of S tier t-shirt, isn't it? Especially for triple captain Gabs, of having 5 effective defenders in 1 week. That shouldn't worry you at all if that's your only route open. So you love all your midfielders, you love your 2 strikers, and you don't really want to move any of them out. For a Declan Rice, then absolutely go with the triple defence. I'd say that having free Arsenal assets is just the gold standard. But I think the reality is that most of us are set. And noted a couple of weeks ago that obviously this was the lowest kind of chaos level in terms of outcomes for the double game week. And even if you own Raya, I think you'd be happy that he's outscored Timber if that's the other sort of option that could have been. I think that's fine, and that he'll definitely play both. Famous last words perhaps. Outside of that, if you want to take a punt, if you're looking for a Hail Mary, or you're just not interested in getting Rice or not interested in getting another defender, who do you consider? Well, Madueke, do you consider a punt on that? It's pretty situational. I probably prefer Rice and perhaps actually use him as the differential captain or triple captain over the majority, who I think will now be solidly leaning towards Gabriel to at least get the armband. More of that and none. But Madueke, I think as Sam mentioned last week, the X-Men's looking like they'll be low, and so it proved with him joining FPL General's 59 minutes club this week, and maybe on the 120 side. But there's a decent enough chance he starts both. In of itself, kind of a reason to put lots off because there's only a decent enough chance. But Trossard apparently had an injury, probably a bit of a doubt for Brentford at least. Probably be that right wing starter at the very least until Saka's back. Very, very short term, but could be lots of fun, especially if you need a Hail Mary. I think I would bulk at the triple captain or the captaincy going on him, but you do you. And the XGI per 90 incidentally is good enough. It's worth noting that he was reportedly spoken of in glowing terms with regards to his profile and ability among Arsenal staff, and he was signed as a kind of category A player, i.e. a starter, not like someone like Norgard, who's more of a fringe player. So yeah, you know what, it could be fine for a great short 1 week punt on Noni. I'm not going to say no to Noni if you really kind of fancy it, but I'm not kind of massively keen on it. I kind of always want to go with I go with the Declan Rice captaincy or triple captaincy route. If you want to oppose that, I think there'll be enough sort of headroom in the Rice effective ownership for you to go with that. Outside of this, the Hail Mary sort of continue in the front line. Havertz, and a friend of the pod, Kieran, went there. Gyökeres, who's been, I think he's actually close to a rise. I'm pretty sure I saw he was top for transfers in at the moment at the time of recording. I mean, that's an interesting one. I mean, I can't guarantee either of these players will play both. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if people were selling, like Thiago, if you got Gyökeres. It doesn't feel like quite the engaged manager thing, but I might be wrong. No guarantees, but yeah, if you are chasing, why ever not? I'm not going to be telling you it's a hard no. If you want to give it a go, if you're in the situation where your season is going nowhere, you need a miracle to get back in contention, or you're just playing for fun over points. But I think it's, it's a risk appetite thing, isn't it? And as I said earlier on, I imagine most of us have our free Arsenal in situ anyway, which takes us on to the next bit. Do you triple captain Big Gabby? Gabs? Not a beer, have I? I'm keen to do it, basically. I think the effective ownership will certainly be over 100% for a Gabriel, but I think that him being a defender, as I've sort of posed as a potential scenario, may be difficult for some to stomach. Captaining a defender, many people would never have done it. Obviously, we're here with our Duffy scars, but there's definitely an opportunity there. And I linked to that qualitatively, I love the idea of being part of an event in FPL history when it comes to potentially unconventional, although maybe that's not quite true in the new world, captains. So we've had luminaries such as Duffy, as I just mentioned, and Dennis in the past, captains on double game weeks. Let's just hope the third time is a charm, eh? So yeah, I'm keen to do it. I've currently got it bust. Let's see what Sam thinks.
So I've been thinking about triple captaincy for Game Week 26 like everyone else. And although I'm not completely set one way or the other yet, and I probably need to do just a little bit more digging into what some of the potential doubles might look like in Game Week 36, for example. But the early situation is we can't really possibly tell which players are going to be good triple captaincy picks around about that point in the season. Who knows, the title might already be won, there might be rotation, and a lot of the big hitters haven't really consistently been hitting those sorts of heights this season either. So I am now looking at Game Week 26 with Gabriel, and although it doesn't seem like the highest upside move, Arsenal's defence is just so tight at the back now, and I do feel like Gabriel does still have a goal or two in him between now and the end of the season. If I could spike a goal or an attacking return, a clean sheet or two, and maybe a DEFCON if I'm lucky, then I think that's probably enough on a triple captaincy return. It also, like I said, just seems like quite a safe way of playing the chip this year when there's the potential for it to be even more powerful later on in the season, which I believe I mentioned on the pod last week. And it is still something I'm considering. But because we can't possibly know which teams and which players would be possible triple captaincy candidates later on in the season, and we don't know for sure whether there are going to be any other very good opportunities, although it obviously it is possible. I do wonder if just getting it done and out of the way now on a maybe slightly boring, but nonetheless very solid triple captaincy option, I think that might be the play. So yeah, I'm not locked in. As you can tell, I'm not completely set one way or the other. But right now the triple captaincy chip is active on Gabriel, and I'm trying to look for reasons perhaps not to do it, and I'm struggling to find too many of those reasons at the moment. So I think it's going to remain on him, but obviously I'll post my team before the deadline as well, so you'll see before I lock anything in.
Yeah, I mean, safe way of playing the chip is the perfect way to encapsulate it. It's the lowest impact of all the chips, let's be real. I'm pretty happy to play it, and I'm all right with it. Whether you kind of succeed or fail, I don't think we'll miss out too much. And I think that, the next triple captaincy candidate will be a player we all own anyway, I'm sure later on too. Some further narrative propaganda, pro triple captain if you need it. Arsenal, obviously the best defence. Second best attack away, according to Understat. And as you might expect, hey, we come in top for goals from set pieces, 14 from corners, by far the most attempts from corners. And Gabriel averages basically 1 attempt from set pieces per appearance. A quick note for Timber owners, he averages over a shot per game. So it's coming, guys. I know it's coming. Over, in terms of opposition, over 50 players have hit DEFCON versus Brentford. The top 5 or 6 conceding them. For conceding them, Sade should be suspended, which probably helps. So Odango is looking like he's coming into a bit of form. And as Sam mentioned, in terms of the calendar, it is tough to tell when there will be kind of later good picks. Some uncertainty, and from listening to James Planet FPL on the weekend last week over where the City game will end up. Would it be part of double game week 33 anyway, when people were looking to deploy their bench boost? I think that's right. or in 36, as Sam mentioned earlier on, they could be focused on other things if they have lost the league. Although I think that them winning at Liverpool might muddy the water there a little bit. And 33 as well, maybe one that lends itself to bench boost anyway. Brentford are one of the best teams for not conceding from corners, but let's throw in but they did concede to Botman, a centre back. Ding, 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 eyes emoji on Saturday night. And they're mid-table for defensive data at home. And Wolves, it is what it is. They're the second worst defence at home, according to Understat. Gabriel's got a high chance to start both. He's a safe pick. And as Sam said, if you spike a bit of variance, there's three league goals this season after his hat-trick against Brentford, we're all going to be laughing. I'm fine to go ahead. If you don't fancy Gabriel and you want to go elsewhere, but triple captain within this week, as mentioned, Rice could be a fine TC. All you could do, spike an assist, spike a couple of DEFCONs, and suddenly, you're up to 30 points for your TC. I just couldn't bring myself to get to Madueke or something like that. Just overall, Gabriel being a chalk captain in a double when in the running for triple as a defender, that's crazy. Damn, it just shows where the game's gone this year with DEFCONs and things, which I'm still in favour of broadly. Talk about that with Sam. Digression quickly. I was just thinking about this the other week. I did kind of post it on social media. What price do you think Gabriel will be next year? He's now in Trent territory, barring any injuries. Obviously, what happens next, we can't know. And I'm not going to spend ages guessing on the wider macro picture now in terms of next year's price list. But an interesting question nonetheless, because as we know it now, next year, if Gabriel is priced below maybe kind of 7.5, he's going to be in every team. And I think it'd be really interesting to see what they do in terms of making it a question whether you put Gabriel in or not, rather than being an auto pick. I feel like 6.5 will see everybody go in there. Even maybe 7. People will be like, oh, that's a tad dear, but I still do it. So maybe he's a 7.5 next year. But mad stuff. But broadly in favour of Gabriel TC. But I understand if you do want to leave it, keep your powder dry, see what happens later on in the year. You may even find that, there's a random double occurs out of somewhere due to random events or something like that. Cool. I get it. I'm just kind of keen to just use it. Other transfers this week, as I said, a bit vibesy. Munoz and Sarr. Sarr obviously took the penalty a couple of weeks ago. He's popped up again with a goal in the motorway derby. Palace have got 2 great games coming, and they also have kind of a good sort of 5 games overall, which are all quite good. Apart from the United game in a couple of weeks isn't great, but overall, Burnley, Wolves, United away, Tottenham at home, and Leeds at home. So they play the 3 newly promoted teams all in the next 5 weeks, and they've got an away game at Spurs, who are currently no great shakes, of course. But they've got their own Conference League kind of playoff, as I mentioned last week, against that Bosnia-Herzegovina team whose name escapes me right now, peppered in and around that, but I think that picking one up, if you do have your Arsenal sorted and you're fine for Chelsea and stuff like that, could well be an interesting way to do it. Now, it's quite situational. If you can get there, I suspect that most people's midfields are fairly locked in right now. So maybe like Sarr may be out, but if you do have a spot for a Munoz, like I did, spoiler for what I've already done, then I think that could be quite a fun pick. I mean, Munoz did very well for me before his injury. Has created, I think, it's 4 chances in 2 games. You've got to bear 31 in mind. I'll have Haaland and 3 Arsenal then, and Dubravka. Sorry, and Munoz. But in terms of one of the Arsenal, because I've got Raya, I can bench him for Dubravka. So I've got like an extra bench slot, if that makes sense, over people who have got Timber and Gabriel. So it kind of meant that I was kind of happy to go there. Sarr himself, good pump for some, good mins. Underlying data is always quite decent. Lots of teasing from Sarr. I think whenever I've owned him, and certainly when Sam's owned him, he's been one of those players who has always been so near and yet so Sarr. Sorry, guys. But lots of times we've looked an FB ref, RIP, and said throughout the years, wow, he's so high on underlying numbers. So either of them look good for the next few weeks. I just love Munoz, basically. I know I'm kind of turning it around. I know that kind of I said the other week that the defensive solidity isn't there. I'm hanging my hat on the fact that they were able to keep it tight versus Brighton, which is probably a bit simplistic. But I've got a decent history with him, and within my structure, which is a 3-4-3, I don't think I always get away from that because of my free transfer situation. I quite fancy Munoz, just because he covers attack and defense, gets me kind of representation in those fixtures. I quite like it. But he is quite expensive. It is a bit of a luxury sort of punt, but hey ho, I've got spots to do it, and I think that there is probably, given the fact that most teams are quite set, there's a lot different. That's probably the main slot for differentiation. Actually, the third defender. So yeah, I'm happy to go with that. Of the Chelsea guys, Enzo, João Pedro, both kind of attracted decent ownership. At the back, it's got to be Chalobah or Sanchez, the goalkeeper. I'm fairly sure you wouldn't be making a goalkeeper transfer now with only 2 games remaining. But the João Pedro train in particular is still running quite hot. I think he's 3rd overall for transfers in this week. I mean, just keeps getting returns, doesn't he? So we said that about loads of players so far this season. And João Pedro's got the next one off the production line. 75 minutes this week, 2 shots worth 0.06 xg, 0 XA, and he walks away with 8 points. I think it's one of those situations where owners are very happy with their scam points and non-owners are praying that it ends soon. Kind of it. But I mean, fair play. If you own him, went there, took the risk, it's paid off for you through, quite fortunate circumstances, depending on which way you look at it. Next up, James Hill needs consideration. 3.9, really good defcon. Seems to have favouritism over Diakite. They didn't go a buy-in in the transfer window and could be amazing value at that price. Definitely my thoughts next couple of weeks for what I might do to upgrade Enzo, which may be, as I mentioned earlier, on Florian Wirtz. So he may come in for Enzo via selling Chalobah to Hill. It's a really nice sort of combination piece to bring in. Also has the game 31, albeit against Man United. But at that point, I think you're probably just going to be happy to have a body on the field. Quick note that Brian Bumo was pictured limping out of Old Trafford the other night. So maybe the other day, I should say. So maybe one to just bear in mind. If you were sizing him up, leave it. If you do own him, just keep an eye out for any kind of press conference or any sort of word coming from the United lot. In midfield, Dango at 5.8 has definitely put his hand up now. Very decent underlying numbers normally, especially remembering his stint as Bournemouth sort of, jack of all trades, centre forward, left wing, right wing last year. And Brentford did pay lots for him, which is a qualitative point, but they know what they're doing. A good long old run of games coming from Gameweek 28 started with Burnley, which is coincidentally when Chelsea's good games run out. So it could be a really easy switch from Enzo. So just one to keep an eye on for now. Obviously got Arsenal next, so not one to kind of go to straight away, but one that I'm definitely keeping an eye on. Ryan, also in the mix here, absolutely bullied Luca Dean, absolutely wreaking revenge for all those FPL managers who have been trolled by the Frenchman. Also, the high ticket price is Wirtz, who I mentioned earlier on, starting to really take control of Liverpool and show the player he was at Leverkusen. Yes, all caveats apply surrounding him being up and down in the data, which was pointed out pre-season. But at 22 years old, we really have to remember their scope for development, especially at a better side, with all due respect to Leverkusen. I'm sure there's lots of Leverkusen fans listening. Really interested in him for 28 when I saw Enzo, one I'm watching closely, despite a bit of a quieter game potentially versus City. Yeah, and generally in the market, Zubimendi has been bought by 150,000 people. I didn't even mention him earlier on. Fair enough if you want to go there. He does seem to kind of do the goals in at random intervals. I know he's got 10 points in a row, so maybe he is Arsenal's Bruno Fernandes, and maybe I've got it completely wrong. But yeah, not particularly of interest to me. And Wilson, most sold player this week. I'm hoping I sold him at the peak, but I think I will be looking at him again. Gameweek 28, I think it is. They've got Spurs and West Ham, I'm going to say, and maybe Burnley too. So for 3 decent home games before, so I might go back to him. You never know. Just kind of, I kind of just hoping I sold that at the right moment. So yeah, lots to consider there. I just kind of fancied a bit of a punt on Palace, basically because the fixtures are quite good. But yeah, you've got to do what you got to do to just reinforce your team ahead of this double. 1 week punts for this week. It's 138 to 121 in my favour. But last week I did initially pick Stack on the pod. I swapped it to Aronson last minute as Stack didn't play. To no avail. Got 2 points for Aronson. Whereas Sam's picked Somerville, smashed out a double-digit haul to cut the deficits just 17 points. For me this week, in terms of the pick, it is Madueke. It's his time. And Sam has astutely played one of his jokers on Gabriel. I really should have thought about that, and I'm an idiot for not doing it, but I've said it now, it's in. Right, on to teams for this week. That looks like Sam's, so let's play that on.
Okay, so moving on to my team selection for Game Week 26. As discussed earlier, Gabriel is likely to be my triple captain this week. Will certainly be at least my captain for Brentford and Wolves both away. My triple Arsenal is alongside Timber and Rice. Rice will get the vice captaincy, but I don't think that really matters. In goal, it's not a lot of good. It's either Dubravka away at Crystal Palace or Kelleher at home to Arsenal. Not particularly optimistic about either of them, but I don't think it's worth a transfer, and there are weaker points in my side, which I probably want to address. I'm currently in a back three, so Lewis Hall is starting against Spurs away from home, although I'll discuss my transfer in that specific position in a moment. Into my midfield, five men there, so it's Bruno Fernandes, Rice, Rodgers, Enzo Fernandez, and Elliot Anderson as well. All 5 with pretty good fixtures this week. I think this is probably the strongest part of my lineup. And then up top, Haaland at home to Fulham. And I do currently have Thiago starting at home to Arsenal. It's not the strongest week to be playing him. I prefer to bench him potentially. But if anyone's going to break that Arsenal clean sheet, I think he is the most likely across either Brentford or Wolves to do so. So it's kind of slightly hedging there. And I don't have a lot more power on my bench either. So I've got Anderson away at Man City. That's the Fulham Anderson. And Alderete at home to Liverpool. I suppose I could play Anderson in the search for DEFCON, but I still think I will be backing the penalty-taking striker there just in case, and it gives me a nice little hedge in case something were to happen to that Arsenal clean sheet. So I think he will remain in my starting 11. I am planning on using my one free transfer. I've got 3.4 million in the bank, and I'm currently thinking I'm going to probably upgrade Alderete all the way up to Munoz, and start Munoz ahead of Lewis Hall. I could start him ahead of Thiago instead and stick with Lewis Hall away at Spurs, which actually doesn't seem like too much of a terrible fixture right now. But I think my gut is telling me to keep the penalty-taking striker in my starting 11. So I'm likely to move in Daniel Munoz and place him into my starting 11. Lewis Hall would drop to first sub, and everything else would remain the same. I did consider Cole Palmer, and he is still in my thinking slightly, but my routes to him with one free transfer aren't fantastic, and I think it is clear that his minutes are still going to get managed, and Chelsea only really have 2 good game weeks left. So maybe it's because I've been a little bit off grid and not plugged into social media as closely as I would normally be during a game week, but I haven't really felt that much of a gut feeling or feel the urge to go to him anytime soon. Obviously, hat-tricks happen, penalties happen. I think he got a slice of good fortune there, getting 2 penalties early on. Did come off at 60 minutes and obviously scored his other shot on target. So it's not that I don't want him, it's just that with 3.4 million in the bank, my options to upgrade are Bruno Fernandes, that's not happening, Declan Rice, that's definitely not happening with a double game week, or Morgan Rodgers, and Morgan Rodgers has Brighton at home. So if anyone were to go, it'd be him, but he's got Brighton followed by Leeds, followed by Wolves. So I don't think I'll be getting rid of him in the search for Cole Palmer. So I think I'm just going to have to brace myself against him this week. But overall, I'm pretty happy. I'll quickly note now, in case Tom hasn't mentioned it, my 1 week punt is I'm going to use my joker on Gabriel because I haven't used him earlier on in the season. I believe Tom has, so fingers crossed I can make that one pay off. And outside of that, hopefully you have all had a great game week 25. Good luck in game week 26. And I'll speak to you all very, very soon. And Tom, I'll see you later as well, mate. Bye.
Lovely stuff. Yes, I haven't played my Joker, but yeah, no, I'm keeping my powder dry for that one. Didn't even mention Cole Palmer earlier on. Whoops. Problem with preparing everything at 7:30 a.m. on a Monday, but yeah, it's difficult for me to get to, I guess. So I don't need to get the hat trick. 2 games, 2 good games left, fitness and 2 penalties. Same copium for me that Sam said. Oh, so Sam's going Alderete to Munoz and playing Thiago ahead of Hall. Okay, I'm in the other way, interestingly, but yeah, good to hear. I didn't even know that he was thinking about Munoz. I haven't listened to the voice note again due to just time. So yeah, interesting to hear that he's thinking of the same way. So Munoz has come in for me. Thinking about 31. Unfortunately, as I said earlier on, I've got Raya rather than double defenders. I may not say that next weekend, but there we go. And that means I've got an extra bench slot with Dubravka able to come in there. So I've got an extra spot almost for flexibility in terms of kind of transfers. And that allows me the lottery pick of Munoz, who's already come in for Tarkovsky. I had the perfect cash to do it. Was spooked by the recent unforeseen rise in Saliba. And I was just like, oh, you know, if they are playing silly buggers with some rises and falls outside of live FPL's purview, then I prefer to get that done and not lose out the opportunity of the player that I actually wanted. So 0.0 million in the bank for me now. A quick salute to Tarko as well, who departs a legend, a player who, as I've mentioned a few times, was a bit of a cockroach for me. I could never squash him, and kind of stayed in my team by mistake. And lots of game week saving 7 or 8 points later. Brilliant. You know, one who's slated as not worth the money by quite a few, for good reason. I understand why, but definitely was to me in those kind of clutch points returns when I needed them, which more often than not made a difference between a marginal red and marginal green. So yeah, go well, Tarko. Maybe I'll see you again. Munoz has himself history in my side. I got all those hauls before he got injured, so I'm hoping he can step into Tarko's very, very large shoes. As mentioned, you know, with Munoz, I did an ideal cover for my structure to have some representation, both attacking and defensive for Palace for those good fixtures for the next 5, as I said earlier on, are good games. I'm lining up in the 4-4-2 at the moment. The key question is between those misspelt ties in who plays out of Chow or Thiago. Think about that for a second. Currently bust with Chow in as Spurs, as we know, have been a little poor recently, to say the least. And according to Understat, their underlying defensive away from home for Newcastle, that is good. I think they're kind of second best away on Understat, wherever that's worth. Plus, Chow is a decent goal threat. Almost scored a worldie in the last game. If that had gone in, that would have been, well, I've never played him, but it would have been a bit annoying, slightly nonetheless. And has an okay DEFCON record, if not Tarko's. But yeah, I think I'll probably do that. Not 100% sure, though. I think kind of I'm tempted to kind of just stick to this sort of all-in sort of style and play Chow and be having a pen taker all way on my mind. I'll let that be the main question, having made my transfer over the next couple of weeks. So team looks like 4-4-2, Raya and goal. At the back, Gabriel, triple captain active, Chalobah home to Leeds, Munoz with that Burnley game, and Chow away at Spurs. In midfield, I've got a decent 4, Rodgers, Enzo, Rice, and Bruno Fernandes. And up front, I've got Haaland, who's partnered by Ekitike. Let's hope that does well. I will make a last-minute decision and obviously post it on socials regarding whether I play Thiago or Chow. Right. So that's everything. Thanks very much for listening and watching. I was Who Got the Assist on Blue Sky. You can find me on Who Got the Assist, FPL Pricey on there, on X, WGTA_FPL, FPL Pricey on there, YouTube, all one word, Who Got the Assist. Sam has his own channel where he does lots of really cool little videos, FPL Pricey. If you enjoyed the show and the pod, please do one or all of the following. Follow us on socials. Give us a 5-star rating on Spotify, iTunes, wherever you listen, or a like and subscribe on YouTube if you're watching there. All of these things help us get out there. I think we'll be back after this double game week has nearly concluded. So probably actually Wednesday, the 18th of February, during the Wolves Arsenal game in the background. So yeah, hope my solo rambling sort of assisted you, and we'll see you on Wednesday week.
Oh, it's a goal. Who got the assist? Who got the assist?